here at the Memorial Library in Collinsville. And we meet here the third Thursday of each month. And hopefully, once the Cahokia Museum gets back open, we'll be shifting our meetings back to there again. But tonight we've got a special program by Larry Kinsella. He's done several for us so far. But this time he's put together a combination of videos that he's produced on his experimental archaeology, especially those that relate to hafting and shafts and lashings and related topics. And so I'll let Larry do his own introduction for that part of it, and then we'll go into the program.
All right, I've got 10 short videos. Oh my God. Well, I found out that when you do this on YouTube, you want your videos to be under 5 minutes. In fact, most of my videos are under 2 minutes to keep people coming back. And so what I'll do is I usually show certain segments of a certain project and then go from there. So the first 3 videos are going to be on the Shark's Tooth Club. And the Shark's Tooth Club was found by Greg Perino in 1949 in the Ramey Field, halfway between the stockade and the north end of Monk's Mound. They had had a flood that washed off 3 feet of soil off the Ramey Field. The next time they came in with a plow, they plowed up this burial. Had 5 great white shark's teeth and then 8 flint teeth to go with it. When he found it, it wasn't all the teeth laying on top of the ground. He found the 5 great white shark's teeth, but he had to probe like crazy to find them all. So if you know Greg, you know he's pretty thorough about stuff like that. If there's an artifact involved, he's going to find it. So when he got down to the burial, he said that there was a piece of walnut with 2 flint shark's teeth on one side and 1 shark's tooth on the other side. So we knew they were opposing sides. And he also found the other pieces up in the plow zone. So all pieces put together made up the club. So the one that I'm showing that we're making here is one that actually, I mean, this terrible photo, but this is one that I made for Carolyn Johnson down in Huntsville, Alabama. And she got me 5 great white shark's teeth. And they were really hard to come by and cost her a lot of money. So I wanted to do a really good job on it. So I kept times on preparing the teeth, drilling the teeth, everything. And all that information is on my website, flintknapper.com. My YouTube channel is Mr. Megalithics. So if you get on there, I have about 150 videos. Some of these are on there too. One of the things that we ran into was this shark's tooth that was burned. That was one from Mound 34. And if you'll notice, it has a notch right here. And the bottom is modified. With these, all of the bony parts have been decayed. But with this, since it was burned, we still had the bone part on it. So we know that this was modified, and we knew that that little notch was put in there. But the idea was what it was for, and we're going to run into that eventually in the videos.
Can you show the camera? Show the camera.
Show the camera, yes.
Yeah, show the camera.
All right. And it's that little notch right there that had us wondering what was going on. And John Kelly is coming up with another Shark's Tooth Club at Mound 34. So between the ones that Perino found, they weren't burned. The one at Mound 34 is burned. I think we've got 6 different pieces of those great white shark's teeth. And the great white shark's teeth were identified by Laura Kozak at U of I. She got her, her degree from University of Florida, Gainesville, and her research was on shark's teeth and shells. And she said that her professor saw these teeth and realized that these all 5 were matched. And he said that there's only 2 teeth in a great white that are going to be matched like that. And so he estimated this represents a minimum of 3 great whites. They're also about 1.25 inches long. So that makes the shark about 16 feet long. So he also said that he could tell if they were washed up on shore or if they were caught. And he said these were not washed up on shore. So I've always thought of what a great adventure to be out in a dugout canoe with a 16-foot shark on your line and then trying to get that thing in so you could have those shark's teeth. This also brings up the idea of trade. Since they're from the Atlantic or Pacific, they weren't in the Gulf of Mexico at that time, that presents a problem. So I've always thought that there's 2 kinds of trade. And I see that with the obsidian blades that come from Yellowstone too. There's hopscotch trade, and then there's pilgrimage trade. So if you're going to do hopscotch trade, that would be you trade to somebody in Indiana, they trade to somebody in Ohio, and down the line. But if you're doing pilgrimage trade, that would be that you would walk to that place to get what you wanted. As a craftsman, making a club like this and having to match all those teeth, I would never get them from somebody hopscotching. I would make a pilgrimage all the way out there, same way I think they did walking to Yellowstone from Ohio to get that big piece of obsidian to put in that museum back in Ohio. So I contend that they're doing this pilgrimage trade to get the things that they really are specific about. Other things, doesn't matter that much. So let's see if I got anything else on the shark's teeth. I'm going to do 3 of them, 3 videos on that. Yeah.
Why did they burn it?
That's a long story, but the way John Kelly was talking about it is the house of the chief was on the east end of Mound 34. When he graduated to the next level, they dug a trench across the center of the mound, burned down his house, threw it in the trench, and then they put all the feasting material that they had after the big feast. Really unusual stuff like roseate spoonbill and swan, all those crazy cuts of meat. Then they sacrificed the club in that pit also. And then they built him another section on that east half and built him a house up higher. So that's what I've heard. Now, Mound 34 is a big mound. It doesn't look like it when you get out there, but when you take the copper workshops and how far they work out, it's a big mound. So I can see where that would be a good project. Now, one of the things a neat little story is that, who was it? Duncan. Jim Duncan. Jim Duncan said that he interviewed some Osage chiefs. And Osage chief said that when you graduated from one level to the other in the Osage warrior clan, that you had to perform, and I think it's 6 sky deeds and 7 earth deeds, which is 13, which is the number of teeth in the club. Is that a coincidence? Now, if this is the scepter that priest or chief had, and they sacrificed it, what did he get when he went to the next level? There are 3 or 4 copper workshops under Mound 34. I would think it'd be some copper, but it's all buried. So, but that's a neat little story that I kind of thought, boy, this is real coincidence that would happen. So, all right, I think we'll go.
You going to show it at your club afterwards?
Yeah, I guess I can now. One thing I do need to mention is you'll notice that I've drilled everything and I'm putting the teeth in as I go. That's because these things are so sharp that if you put one tooth here and then put your hand next to it, you're going to get your knuckles all barked up. So I always started with put the M1 in and then work my way this way so I don't get my knuckles all torn up. You'd be surprised I've done 13 of these. And let's see, 13 teeth for each one. I'm so sick of making flint shark's teeth. You won't believe it. So this is where we're using a bone chisel to chisel out the mortises for the great white shark's teeth.
It's the 10th of February.
Volume a little.
I'm mortising this walnut club to accept one of the shark's teeth. And I'm using a simple antler chisel. Kind of wondering how these things might work. This one works pretty well, I must admit. Fairly simple little antler. Using a wooden mallet. Piece of Osage orange was burned. I'm driving this out so that I can put in one of the shark's teeth. Now, I must admit, it does help a lot to have that nice old-fashioned vise there. But you could also do this in your hands. It'd probably take just a little bit longer.
Now this is where I make a mistake. And I blow out this corner right here. Yep.
Broke out.
So those happen as you go. When you're doing a video, you can't always make sure what's going on.
Got a little carried
I got one of them where my wife pulled into the driveway and blew the horn. I got another one where the telephone rang. I try everything to make sure nobody's at home and then
And
everything.
this is going to accept, so the hole is going to be for one of the shark's teeth. And this is the shark's tooth right here. This is going to fit in the hole. I've got to take a little more out of the end. You can see that it fits first hole pretty well. There's another tooth that will go into that one. This one looks like it needs to come back just a little farther. There we go. I've got to watch my walnut grain here because it's wanting to split out.
And by the way, the original club was
It's
walnut.
starting to fit. I've just got to trim it up a little bit and we'll have it in there. Doesn't take long. Nice antler chisel. Well, this is Larry Kinsella again, and you can see that I've got my pitch heating up here. I've got a little candle under here to keep the pitch nice and warm and liquid state, so I can just take it and dab it into the handle here. I'm going to set the first shark's tooth. The glue isn't really to hold it in. More or less, the glue is going to make a base to hold that point so that then I can tie it in. If the glue ever comes loose, it'll hang on. So this is going to be kind of just a better way to tie it in, hold it there. So I'm going to get my pitch. Now this is Rob Withrow's recipe. And that we're using elk dung and rabbit dung mixed in with the pitch. I'm going to set it right in there. And then I'm going to hurry up and get the shark's tooth in. Set it just like that. And then I'm going to look at it from the side, make sure it's straight. Moisten my finger a little bit and smooth that pitch out a little. And really, there isn't a whole lot to it. That's set really good. It's set ready to go. Next thing I'll be doing is putting my lashings through and tying it back on. See you later.
This next one will show you what that notch was on the shark's tooth.
Okay,
There's
this is
two of
Larry
them.
Kinsella again, and we've just about got the shark's tooth club finished.
To hold down
I've got to take some of these
the front
little
and back of
areas
the
that have
shark's
got
tooth.
glue and stuff mixed in. I'll need to get rid of those. Now what I'm going to use is just a flint flake, and I'm going to come along and cut off some of that excess glue and just get rid of it. much as I can. And then I'm going to use equisetum, Indian sandpaper, to get the area off in between. Now the Indian sandpaper has these dried areas on it, and then the greener areas. I prefer to use the dry stuff if I can, so I'm going to snap it apart and just fold it over, and that's what I'm going to use to sand this area. And I'll do that with each tooth to make sure that all the glue is off. And then I'll go ahead and oil the club one more time. Now you can see that the grit has picked up some of the material, so I'm just going to turn it over, use the other side. This is also a good way to give a really nice finish to the club. It'll be right nice and slick and almost like burnishing it. So then once I get done with that, I'll oil it one more time and the club's ready to go. I've already finished
There's
the lashings,
notches right there.
lashing the shark's teeth
And
in
there.
with dog bane cordage. And so that's all ready to go. Actually, the club is just about finished. So thanks for watching. It was fun, wasn't it?
Okay, the Indian sandpaper he's talking about is a plant called horsetail.
Yeah, got it here,
That's kind of a marshy area where it grows usually.
right across from my house. About 3 acres of it. All right, the next one is a shell hoe. I had never made a shell hoe before about 10 years ago. Didn't know, I know that there were any out there. I finally called a mutual friend, Terry Powell, down in Florida at that time. And he said, look in the book for Bluff Dweller Cave. There's one in a handle there. And sure enough, it's a poor picture, but there it is. And so I always thought you put a stick through the hole. If you look in a lot of the old museums, that's what they have, and it never worked. And this makes so much more difference. So we're going to go from puncturing the hole in the shell, and then we'll make the handle and the lashings. When we get to the lashings, I'll have one video that shows me twisting the rawhide. This is the way I cut it in about 1-inch strips, and then you can see how tough that rawhide is. There's no way to control it. So if you have a hole like this, you get these areas that catch dirt, and I never did like that. So when I did the one at Cahokia with the walnut handle, I twisted my cordage. Found out that the cordage gains a lot of strength once it's twisted, and you don't end up with these open spots. When your hide gets down to about this, you can imagine you go around those sharp corners, everything's going to botch up. But if you take it and cut it that way and then soak it and then twist it, you don't have any of those real sharp corners. They all twist into it. So as you're doing the experiment, many times you're trying to figure out what's better. I don't know a craftsman that doesn't try to see, well, this works, let's see if this works. Well, it worked really well. When we did the pit house at Cahokia, I guess we had like 10 hides that we had tanned into rawhide. And in order to cut, I think we needed 700 and some feet of rawhide. So what we did is we took a flint flake, stuck it in a log at an angle, and then we just took this and cut it right along that flint flake. It worked really well. We were able to get a lot of cordage done. This is tough stuff. So as you go, we try to figure out those types of things. I could see where you could put a tally peg and then make all your cordage or rawhide the same width. So something like that, something we didn't expect to see. I had a hard time talking Callahan to let me do it, but once he saw how it worked great. So, and we did most of it with just one flake. Then the other thing we got, I think that's it. The first video here, I'd never done this before. So when I do my videos, a lot of times that's what I do because I'd like you to go what I'm going through. And there's a reason that I do things and then try to explain that. So when you see these holes, you'll notice that the hole is never in the center. But if you look at this, if you get the light right, you can see that's the thinnest part of the shell. That's why you put it there. It doesn't matter. The notch does everything, the notch and the handle. This is very strong. Once you get done, you want to rehaft it, put it in water, let your lashings get soaked, punch a hole in another one, put it in, it'll fit the same groove. So you can retool in about 20 minutes using this simple thing. Also, this is when they are doing wall trenches at Cahokia, going from single post construction, and the wall trenches are usually about that deep and about that wide. What a great way to dig a trench with a scoop on the end of your hoe. So I think that's why I've seen at least 30 of these in excavations that I've been on in wall trenches. Most of the time they're broken off or worn down to the hole. You'll also notice that this doesn't take very long. That surprised me. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, this is Larry Kinsella again. What I want to do is I want to perforate this shell to make a shell hoe out of it. It's hard to see, but right about here is the thinnest part of the shell. So that's why I'm going to try to hit one. I've never tried this before, but I'm going to try it with a piece of flint first. If that doesn't work, I've got a piece of antler that I can use. I'm just going to try to perforate this. There we go. And then I can use my antler, punch out around it. The thing about shell hoes is that they are not drilled, they are punched. And this is working beautifully. It's going a nice enough hole that I get my lashings through and tie it onto the handle. Simple deer antler and a wooden mallet. That's all I've got. Okay. Maybe a little rounder. I think that'll do. So, simple tools to do a simple job. Got it perforated through the thinnest part. Perfect. So now all we have to do is make the handle and haft it up. It'll be all ready to go. See you next time. So this is Larry Kinsella again, and I'm making a clamshell hoe. I've put the mortise in this piece of wood, piece of hickory, and I've got to fit the shell just about perfectly. I want it to fit fairly tight. I need to turn it just a little, right about there. That's not bad at all. It's a good tight fit. And now that I've got it fit, I'm going to try to melt some glue in here and glue it in. This is pitch. I'm going to get my glue stick here, and we're going to heat it up a little bit and get it to drip down in here, and see if we can't.
By the way, that's this hole.
Get this thing to set. Once it's set, then I'll go ahead and make it a little more solid by putting the lashings around it. I want plenty of stuff in there. And my phone's ringing in the background. I want it to drip down inside here too, because I want a good bond when it goes in here. Now we're talking. All right, I'm going to get and we're going to set it right in there. That's looking good. Boy, it's setting up solid already, so that's pretty good shape. Then what I'll do is I'll take it through here and put my lashings on afterwards. And we'll get back to that later after the phone stops ringing.
Now the lashing...
You have to grind the edges of that hole to put in the shell so that it doesn't tear or rip.
No, and that's one thing I wanted to mention. It's very important with hose and with anything that you're going to use power on. the most important thing is to have this wood at the top. Same way with a gouge or an adze. You don't want your lashings to hold anything except hold it to the tool. If you go to museums, you see them lashed all the time. They're not going to last more than a blow because they're going to hit and it just can't take it. This is what does all the work. So when if you look at the one, I think with the burger figurine, I think that's on it. Maybe not. I have to look again. But anyway, this is what makes the tool. And if you've got a chopping tool at all, that's what you want. So what was the other thing I was going to mention? And the lashings. You can see when I put the lashings through that they're just straight lashings like this. If I twist it, that's a whole big problem because when I put it back in water, it wants to untwist again. So usually I have to tie a stick to each end or to one end and then put that somewhere where it won't untwist and then feed the stuff through after that. So this is putting the pitch or the rawhide on. Yeah, should be.
Well, this is Larry Kinsella again. We've got the hoe hafted in with pitch, and now I'm going to take my rawhide. I've got it soaked, and I'm going to start putting my rawhide lashings on to tie it to it. Really, all the lashings do is just hold it in place. The glue and the hafting seem to hold it. I'm going to let a little hang out extra here, and then just start wrapping. Now I've got a pretty long piece here, so when I feed it through, I don't want to get it on the floor if I can help it. So I'm just going to feed it through a little at a time and pull the whole thing through. There we go. Wrap it around here and feed that through. And I'm going to let that other end kind of hang loose so that I can pull it through later on.
The Indians would have given anything to have a vise.
For this rawhide to fit through. And
that's one my great-grandfather made that was up at our farm.
I'm going to take a figure 8 here, come up the other side. Around like that. And I'll take this one and bring it over like that. And then we'll start going back through the hole again. Well, if I can get it through there. There we go. So really what this rawhide does is just hold the hoe to the handle. It's really, and the glue, or this, what do you call it? Oops, I got a knot here. Let me get that out of there. There we go. And then don't really tie it really tight. You don't really have to, because this rawhide will set up pretty quickly once it's all through here. And I'm going to take one wrap around the outside and kind of tighten this up, maybe two. I've got enough for another wrap. Take those two, and then here's my loose end. I'm going to go ahead and tie that, and that's going to put my knot on the inside. Make a square knot. There we go. And then once that tightens up, then I'll go ahead and let it dry, and then I'll cut off the pieces that are left over. So we're all hafted up, we're ready to go. It's going to make a really good hoe. These things are very strong. So, okay, thanks for watching.
I want you to notice how simple it is. That's the thing, is that most of this stuff, once you figure out what's going on, boy, they always make good tools. And they're always better than I think they are.
How long will it
shell like that hold up?
I don't know. Haven't gone into that yet. When you look at the stuff they're working on at Cahokia,
Hi, I'm Larry Kinsella. I wanted to show you how I twist my rawhide up to make my lashing. So I've got it tied to a tree about 30 feet away, and just a piece of cane. I'm going to just put it in my hands and twist it. And that's a pretty simple way to twist this rawhide up. Once I get it twisted to where it starts to double back on itself, then I'll tie it to a tree and let it dry out. And you can see I've got a ways to go because it's just starting to twist up now. But this is a very simple way to twist your cordage, make bowstrings, things like that, the lashings for my hose, spades, things like that. That works really well. Not a lot to it. So I'm going to keep twisting, and we're just going to go ahead and turn the camera off at this point. See you later. Hi, this is Larry Kinsella.
this is the Ramey
I'm
knife
going to be
that
attaching
the
this Ramey knife to this
mannequin
handle.
was using to butcher the
I've got
deer at
two fit.
Cahokia Mounds. Go ahead.
The way I want it. Now I have to put my pitch down in there. So I'm going to take it out. And I'm going to start my pitch on fire. We're going to drip it way down in there. We want this thing to seat really well. And I'd like to get it on the sides too while I'm doing this. So it's going to make a little of a mess. I'm going to turn this up and let it drip. There we go. And let it drip down the sides so I get a good bond. Get down both sides. There we go. And while I'm doing that, it's also getting down into the bottom.
You can also burn your other hand pretty easy this way.
That's going to seat the blade really well. Now I can pretty much let it go. It's dripping pretty good down now. It's filling up the whole bottom. Okay. Get that out. Wash it in there. Make sure I got it straight. There we go. Then I'll fill this up later on with the same pitch. That'll make it work. We'll fill all this area and this area too. And then I'll fill the other side. We'll have a good strong bond. It's really strong already. Okay, see you later.
See what I mean about the short videos? So there's people can watch that without getting bored and still get to see most of what goes on.
Okay, this is Kinsella again. I've got this hoe. I've got it all chiseled out, ready to put the hoe in. And now I need to melt my pitch in there and get the hoe seated really nice. So what I'm going to do is heat up my pitch stick and let it catch on fire. And then we're going to drip that right down in there. Let that hoe get seated really well. And pitch is going in fairly well. You get it up here toward this end. Let that end keep burning. I want everything to be seated really well because of the unevenness in the hoe blade.
Okay.
And we're about ready. There we go.
The dung is like
Pretty good already.
tempering in pottery.
Now I'm going to take some.
When the glue dries, it won't crack. It also
up in here.
makes a really good bond. There's my wife want me to bring the groceries up.
A little bit more.
And here's one of those pitch sticks. come up and take a look at it later.
All right, looks pretty good. Spit on my finger, get it even out. That's not too bad. Okay, that hose ready to go. Catch you later.
And then I think this is number 10. This should be the last one. And it's very self-explanatory.
This is Larry Kinsella again. What we're going to be doing is the 4-notch technique. And I'm going to put 4 notches in here. First, this is for an arrow, for your arrowhead to go on. So what I'm going to do is scrape this first. And this is a piece of dogwood. Just going to get the bark scraped off enough so we can get at it. You would do that with the entire shaft. By the way, you want to do this when it's green. You don't want it to get too hard, too dry. Now what I'm going to do is cut 2 notches. The first one's going to be 1/3 of the way through. And then I'm going to look at where that is, turn it over 180 from there, and make another notch directly across from that, but also about 1/3 of the way through. And you want both piece notches to be about the same depth. They don't have to be, but it's a lot easier. And then I'm going to turn it sideways and see how much I have left here, if that's equal to what I have here. And it pretty much is. I just want to go a little deeper because my arrow's going to be a little shallower. All right, now I'm going to turn it 90 degrees. And right up from here, about there, I'm going to put a small notch. Doesn't have to be very big at all, just a little notch. And turn it over, and right across from that goes the 4th notch. That's why they call it the 4-notch system. And now I'm going to split it. If I can get up closer to the camera. And I want to split it from this notch to that notch. Like that. And then turn it and split it from this notch to that notch. Here we go. And then we're going to crack out this piece in between.
Remember this part here.
All right, and then that's where your arrowhead will go, right in there. It's a slick system. It also tapers the ends of your shaft so that it doesn't hang up on anything, and it fits almost every arrow. What you want to do is do this while it's green, and then let them season and get your arrow shafts nice and straight before you let them season. Okay, nothing to it, right?
So the part that I pointed to, about 20 years ago, I was down at the University of Arkansas. Liz Horton was there, gave me a tour of the museum, and we looked at the stuff from Bluff Dweller Cave. We got to see that hafted hoe, a couple other things. But she said, we got a whole bunch of stuff here, and I think we might have some bannerstone drills from the looks on the outside. We went through it all, and boy, some of it looked like it might have, but it really wasn't. But we did find that male portion of the crack out. So that was only the second one I've ever heard of. One was at a cave in Nevada. And she had no idea what it was. And I said, you know what this is? No. And I went out and got a tree limb and did it. And she said, oh my God, that's cool. So you never know who you're going to run into when you do that kind of stuff.
Sure, the point into the notch that you just
Pitch and sinew.
pitch.
Right. Now sinew, most people don't, they pound sinew. I never do that. I just split it right off the edge, try to get a nice long piece that goes all the way down. When I'm doing my school programs, my wife taught me as a storyteller, always has something to bring the kids back. As a storyteller, when she started to lose her audience, she would do what we call a jump tale. And John White was an expert at this. You get very soft, very quiet, like the Indian is sneaking up, and then you make a war whoop, and everybody just jumps. When I lose my audience, you know I'm losing it when I put the sinew in my mouth and talk to the kids. It draws them in like crazy. I don't care for it because there's probably all kinds of parasites on that, but it does work to bring my audience back. all depends on how much I want to sacrifice to do that. One of the things that I was going to show, and this has been stained and everything, but I'm working with Debbie Cosmopoulos. She's working at Ictliana with her husband over in Greece, and they're running into these boar tusk helmets. And so I think we may do a Friday archaeology on some of this. But I think she's up in Alaska now, but I saw her make a post, and she said, I said, any more boar's teeth? She said, tons. So, oh man. So then she said, well, we'll have to do something to wash you. It takes 40 boars to make one helmet. And these are split on the old helmets, which this happens to be. There are no cords showing. On the later helmets, there's 4 holes, and the cords are through there. So if you're taking a sword, you could cut those cords, and then the pieces are gone. But the way they made these was to take a micro drill and drill a hole sideways into this little rib on the back side, and then stitch that to their helmet so that they couldn't be cut. But boy, we thought it'd take an hour and a half to drill one of those. I think I did it in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. So she was just thrilled because she thought that these would take a lot longer. So this is a program that I'm working that isn't from the United States, but it's something that just fascinated me to no end, and that we could do it that quick is really kind of cool for her too. Any questions?
What period with those?
This is Grecian.
But what?
I don't know what date Ictliana is offhand. I want to say 1000 BC or so, but don't quote me on it. Yes?
How do you straighten an arrow?
An arrow?
Yeah, how do you straighten?
There's several ways to do it. Do it when it's green, put it over a fire, heat it, straighten it, put a cold cloth on it, or water. And that will set that portion. You have to do it all the way along. That's why a lot of the cane arrows, especially a lot of arrows are made out of cane. You'll see that they're burned like every 6 inches. That's to straighten them out. The other thing is you can use an arrow straightener. It's just a piece of wood, or a rib works really well, and you drill a hole through it about that big around, and especially if you're heating it, you don't want to grab that and bend it because you're going to burn your fingers. So what you do is you slip this over the end, and you pry on it, look at it, pry on it, look at it, and then you set it. Put it in the water again. So once you get them straight, this is one thing that I've always had a bellyache about with museums, is you cannot let these things get wet. The lashings come loose, the bowstrings don't work. You know, there's an old saying that they didn't hold any war parties during the rain because all their bowstrings would soften up, couldn't do anything. Whether that's anything, I don't know. But I'll guarantee you that these tools were hanging up in the rafters. They probably had 30 arrows hanging from the rafters, bows, things like that they had to keep really dry. So when you look in most museums, Cahokia is one of them, they have all the grain down there, but they don't show all the tools hanging up there in the attic. And what a great place. That's the only place you're going to keep them dry. So I guess that's about it. I'm trying to think if there was anything else I had. Anyway, you can see, you can go to Mr. Megalithics and see those videos. Yes?
How do you use the cordage? I mean, when do you use plant cordage, and when do you use the rawhide or the animal semen?
On the Shark's Tooth Club, I used the cord because I needed something really strong and thin to fit through those holes. With the rawhide, like that hole, I didn't make that hole big enough. I had trouble getting that last lashing through, and that showed me, oh yeah, they make those holes a little bigger. I had it too small. So those kinds of things are things that I learn as I go along. I don't see any reason you couldn't use fibers on most of these things, but it's just, I had deer hide like crazy, so I had a bunch of deer hides left over. That's where my Christmas cards came from. I had my 6 deer hides hanging up in the trees, and Dave Klostermeyer came up my driveway and said, why don't you put a Santa Claus up there? So that's what I did, and had Santa Claus stretched out like that with all the deer hides, and it was Santa and the 8 reindeer. And that was my first Christmas. Oh, that wasn't the bad one. When I had Santa skinning Barney the dinosaur, that was the one I caught a lot of hell for. So, any other questions?
Larry,
Yeah.
on the grooved axis, can you talk about how you make the handle?
Okay.
I know you got it.
With a Celt, the handle is real easy. You drill a hole. You don't let the sides touch. You want to see daylight here and daylight there. All your power is front and back. Otherwise, it'll split your handle. So it's very simple. I don't know if you can see daylight between the both sides. Yeah. If it starts touching, I'm almost touching on this one side, but not quite. If it starts to touch, you want to take it back out. Hit this end over a log. It's one of the reasons that these ends are usually battered up. They'll have a chunk out of them. While you hit it over a log, take it out, cut a little out, put it back in there, it's ready to go. If it doesn't fit and you want it to be down farther, I'll take a piece of rawhide and put it in the front or back. Sometimes I'll double it, and then that will keep the power on the front and back, and then it works. With these, this is a whole different ballgame. When you get to groove axis, there's a full groove that goes from about 8,500 to about 5,000 BC. This is a 3/4 groove that goes from about 5,000 to 1,000. This is one that Toby Morrow made for me. Julie and him gave it to me for Christmas. You can barely see. This piece of wood extends up like this. And then they steamed it and bent it around like this and put a groove in the handle here, stuffed it down in that groove, and then tied it up. This was one of my favorite axes. I've cut over 300 trees with it. The problem is, Toby made this wedge up here. Not this wedge, but one like it. And it worked beautifully because when this gets loose, you can't let it get loose or it'll break the bit. So you tighten it up by pushing that wedge in. Since I lost that one, I tried to make wedges that fit, and I haven't made one that fits perfectly yet. So we used it on the canoe, and it worked beautifully. I just had to tighten it up every 10 minutes or so. So if I figure out how to get that wedge just right, it's going to last much longer. Toby was a real good tool maker. Knew his stuff.
I had a question about how you had the time. On the video, I think 2 sets of them had string going.
Right. That was the great white shark's teeth. That was these. There were 5 great whites and then 8 flint ones. I couldn't get great whites for that.
So they were the only ones that you had to tie.
Yeah. And they were the only ones that were drilled.
Would you use like
Now-
a green cord and then
Yeah, it was
moisten it or something?
just a little, but it was dogbane. Dogbane is very strong. You can get a piece of dogbane that's almost like a fishing line, and man, it's strong stuff. So if you know what to do, you can really get a great cord with it. The thing is, the club at Mound 34 was burned, and the other one at the Ramey Field wasn't. So the one at Mound 34, I had this tooth fall out if I can find it.
I think it's in your pocket.
Is it? I have. Anyway, that tooth that we found, some of the teeth were the flint teeth, and they were only in the handle that far, because when it burned, the teeth got singed until that point. So that's when we realized this isn't going to make a great war club. You're going to hit somebody, the teeth are going to take off. So I think I wouldn't want to get hit with it, but I think what this is a sign of power, like a scepter, something like that. When you get up here, you feel the edges on this, see how sharp it is. You see why I bark my fingers up a lot. Here's one of Rob's pitch sticks, 50% hard pitch, 50% soft pitch, some elk dung, and rabbit dung. And boy, does that bond this together. Just like tempering in pottery, when it dries out, it doesn't crack. Charcoal does about the same thing. In the early Archaic and think Paleo, Ken Tankersley found one of the points at Wenatchee had a spot on it that he didn't understand. He said, "What could that possibly be, Larry?" I said, "That looks like a piece of pitch." So he put it under a microscope, sure enough, and he said, "But there's little streaks in it. What's that?" And I said, "That's charcoal to temper it." So he looked at it and said, "Sure enough, that's what it is." But it was only a piece about 1/8 of an inch square left on that ancient blade from 10,000 years ago. So, and that was off of Pete's cast, by the way. Pete Bostrom, that's how good a cast he made, is that you could tell things like that. You could tell new flakes from old flakes on his cast too. Anybody else?
So do you see residue from that pitch on the artifacts? I don't know that I've ever noticed it.
Yeah, you'll see it. It's got to be the right conditions. There's a bunch of them from caves that have the residue on them. You'll see some, guys that collect in caves and rock shelters. A lot of times you'll see it there, and they'll have.
That stuff from the field that typically have, does it weather off, or why is it?
Yeah, pretty well wears off. Yeah, it's organic, so it's gonna eventually be gone. But if it's in the right environment, that's the thing.
What kind of pitch is it again?
50% hard pitch off a pine, and then 50% soft pitch. So usually, I don't remember, I know like the yellow pine gives you the hard pitch, and then white pine, stuff like that. I haven't even tried, I tried cherry, and that actually makes a decent pitch with the hard pitch, but it's a little harder to control. So you just experiment. I got that tree next to my house, and it's always bleeding, and I'll go out there and scrape some of it off and throw it in the can. What we did is Rob would take it and mix it together over a little camp stove or a fire and just stir it, and then come around the edge like cotton candy and make the pitch stick. And boy, once you got it in a stick form like this is handy as can be. All it takes is a stick. So what? So.
You so nonchalantly said, when you were showing that one, well, you drill a hole in that piece of wood, and that, how did they drill a hole in wood?
Thank you, because that's the one thing I didn't mention. Micro drills.
What?
Micro drills.
It's a drill.
That's how you drill the holes.
How they drilled it in that, like that big.
In the club, yeah.
The club.
Yep.
4-inch club.
Yeah, it took me, I think the longest hole took me 15 minutes, and the easiest hole took 7. Yeah.
You did that big one with the black.
Oh, this?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
this one I made with modern tools. We were in a hurry, but a good bone or antler chisel, you can take this out in about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Yeah. Now some people burn it. They'll have a blowpipe and they'll burn it. It's a little hard to control. But you can also do it with a flint chisel. I remember when we did that lintel over the gates at Cahokia Mounds outside, and I got more blood blisters getting down that hole that deep. Man, that was tough. And but you learn not to hit your hand, and you hit the tool sooner or later anyway. So, anything else? All right, thanks a lot for coming. If you want to come up and take a look at stuff on the table, feel free.
You said the soft, just for the pitch.
Yeah.
How do you hit PITC?
Yep.
So the soft was, the hard was yellow pine.
Yeah.
And the soft is.
I think it's like a fir, like your Christmas